So Chris Haynes just broke the news, and the Phoenix Suns are just shocking everybody right now, and they are waiving Chris Paul. So we all thought that there was maybe a chance that the Suns would trade Chris Paul in this offseason. Maybe they could flip him for an upgrade at the point guard spot. Maybe they can just get one or two fairly valuable assets in exchange for him, maybe sell for 75 cents on the dollar, but at least get something in exchange for Chris Paul, maybe get a little bit younger. But no, they're flat out waiving him. So they're not getting anything in return for him at the moment, which is kind of crazy because the Suns' motto right now is win now. Their window isn't open for the longest time. Devin Booker is about to be in his prime. DeAndre Ayton's fine at the 5 spot, but Kevin Durant isn't getting any younger, so releasing your 4th or 3rd best player and getting nothing in return is kind of a head scratcher. So not all of Chris Paul's contract was guaranteed. The Suns could stretch and waive Chris Paul's contract, so pay it out over time, and they could save up to like $26 million under the tax and basically just have a mid-level exception filled out because they don't have cap space. It's not like they can go out and sign Kyrie Irving or James Harden or Fred VanVleet because they're paying max money to Devin Booker. They're paying max money to Kevin Durant. They're almost paying max money to DeAndre Ayton. And the only other contract on their team is Landry Shamet, who's making like $10 million. So this Suns team doesn't have cap space. That's why releasing your 3rd best player didn't make any sense. Like, would you just be better off trading Chris Paul for Tobias Harris straight up and then find like a point guard, whoever you're going to go with anyway? Like, why not do that? Or just trade him for just another bad contract, but at least somebody that can give you meaningful minutes. Releasing Chris Paul, just, you know, that's 30 minutes you're going to have to figure out to try to win a championship next year. So I don't really get this for the Suns part. Now, there's a chance something comes out in a couple days and it's going to make a lot more sense. That's probably what's going to happen. But in this video, I'm going to give you guys like 10 or so Chris Paul spots that I'd like to see him sign with, and that like would be a fun landing spot for him next year, because there's so many contenders that I think would be super fun. There's even a non-contender that I think could make some sense. But it is looking like Chris Paul wants to be on a pretty good team to win a championship in the next coming years. So let me know before we get into this video and before who I give my landing spots to, and like I'll give my final one at the end that I want to see him sign with. Let me know yours in the comments below. Where do you think Chris Paul is going? So the first one is the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, they can give Chris Paul the minimum, and Chris Paul is getting paid from the Phoenix Suns. He's made over $370 million throughout his career. He doesn't really need to get a ton of money on this next contract. So the Bucks, they've been lightly in Damian Lillard rumors. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me to make videos on Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks, talk about that. I just don't know how that was ever happening unless it was a crazy 3-team trade. But now we could maybe see a Chris Paul, Drew Holiday backcourt. Chris Middleton's still there at the 3. Brook Lopez maybe at the 5, or Bobby Portis, and obviously you have Giannis there in that front court as well. So the Milwaukee Bucks could go out, get that floor general, somebody that has playoff experience, no championship experience, but you know what, at that point it's a cheap immediate upgrade. He's a plus player. He's going to give any contending team meaningful minutes. He's not going to score 20 a night. He's not going to average 12 assists a night. He's not going to shoot 40+% from 3, but he's still going to be that floor general point guard that's better than half the other point guards in this league. I'm not saying Chris Paul's a top 10 point guard anymore. He's not, in my opinion. He's probably in that 15 to 20 range, but if you're landing a 15 to 20 point guard in this league, you could do that without giving up any assets. You go do that, and I think the Milwaukee Bucks should be at the top of his list, and he should be at the top of theirs. Go out, try to re-sign maybe Brook Lopez, and or make sure Middleton comes back. You have Bobby Portis and Drew Holiday, like I mentioned, with Giannis. Go out, get Chris Paul, and yeah, like I said, Paul and Holiday in that backcourt, that'd be super fun to watch offensively, defensively. And I grew up liking Chris Paul. I've always liked him, like on the Clippers mainly, growing up watching him in Lob City and a little bit in New Orleans. And I would like to see him get a championship. Another team could be the Boston Celtics. I don't know if Chris Paul would want to sign with them, but they were in some Damian Lillard conversations. Would they trade Jaylen Brown for Damian Lillard to get that point guard? Now you could maybe go out and sign Chris Paul, and then you move one of your guards for a front court player. Maybe this will make you feel better moving a Derek White or a Malcolm Brogdon or a Marcus Smart for somebody that can help you in the front court, because Time Lord has his injury concerns, and Robert Williams, and Al Horford is getting up there in age and he's not getting any younger, and Grant Williams could leave in free agency. So this could be something for the Celtics. Go out, sign Chris Paul, another leader in the locker room, another veteran, and then you can move like a Malcolm Brogdon or a Marcus Smart or Derek White to get a front court guy like I just mentioned. So the Celtics could be an interesting team as well. I mean, I feel like I have to mention the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference, because if James Harden leaves for nothing, you can maybe give Chris Paul a little bit of money, and you can be like, all right, Chris Paul, like, come here. We have a rising star in Tyrese Maxey. We have the reigning MVP in Joel Embiid. We have a respected coach in Nick Nurse, and they have a little bit of assets around that. Maybe Chris Paul's like, okay, I can actually come here, be the the second or third most valuable player on this team and still believe that I can win a championship. Now, I don't know if that'd be the best landing spot at all, but I'll just throw out Chris Paul to Philadelphia. The last realistic one here in the Eastern Conference is the team that's in the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat. The Heat don't move Tyler Hero this offseason, and I think they should maybe think about it. You just made it to the finals without him, and he would go for a little bit on the trade market as well, like a young shooting guard from that cursed 2019 draft class that is actually not a head case off the court. And you could just kind of replace Kyle Lowry with Chris Paul. Yeah, I would 100% do that. Chris Paul could buy into that system. Chris Paul could maybe just love that culture there. Maybe Pat Riley is a Chris Paul guy, or Eric Spoelstra is a Chris Paul guy. So they could go out, add Chris Paul to Jimmy Butler to Bam Adebayo. So we'll see about Tyler Hero and if they re-sign Gabe Vincent or Max Strus and Caleb Martin and who's all back next season. But I think like Chris Paul has to think about the Miami Heat and how much success they have had over the last couple of seasons and how he wants to win a championship. And Miami just went to the finals as an 8 seed. So you can go to Miami, you get to play in South Beach, you get to play next to Jimmy Butler. I think they're good friends. And then you could try to win a championship there. So that would be a realistic spot. I think that's probably it for the Eastern Conference. I don't think a team like the Knicks would go after Chris Paul. You have Jalen Brunson. The Nets could use a point guard next to Mikal Bridges, pair him up after playing in Phoenix, but I don't think like they're close to winning a championship that Chris Paul would want to sign with them. The Magic aren't like there yet. The Hawks don't need a point guard. No idea what's going on with the Bulls or the Wizards. So yeah, I think that's it in the East. In the Western Conference, we have to talk about the LA Clippers. If he can go back there, play with Kawhi Leonard, play with Paul George. I mean, if they're fully healthy in the playoffs, yes, they can win a championship, but am I going to say that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, even one of them is going to be healthy come playoff time next year? No, I am not doing that. They're paying Marcus Morris a ton of money. They're paying Norman Powell a ton of money. They're paying a lot of these veterans a ton of money on this team, and they'd only be getting older with Chris Paul. So I don't really know if I would do that if I was CP3, but if I'm the Clippers and like you're not going to bring back Russell Westbrook and you think Chris Paul fits this team a little bit more in what you're trying to do next season, I would do that 100% if I were the Clippers. You bring him back, somebody that was great for you, one of your best players in franchise history, arguably maybe the best player in franchise history, and you get to try to win a championship next year. Maybe if you turn injuries off, that is possible, but yeah, I think the Clippers could be a team. We have to talk about the LA Lakers, of course. It's LeBron James. Their window isn't like open much longer. They're trying to win it next year with LeBron and AD, and they can maybe bring in Chris Paul for a tenth of the price of what Kyrie Irving would cost financially, and they could still bring back Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura and maybe look for another big man throughout free agency or the trade market as well. So we have to talk about the Lakers. I honestly think he's going to end up on the Lakers because of course he will, right? Like the Lakers are just going to get freaking Chris Paul. I know. But next year could be the year that Chris Paul's play just completely drops off. He can completely be washed. And I don't think he's going to come in and play 30 minutes a night and be a stud and the savior for the Lakers, but he could just be somebody that's, you know, an upgrade over some other point guards. He could be an upgrade over Dennis Schroeder for you when it comes down to it, and Schroeder was actually not too bad last year. So yeah, we always have to talk about the Lakers here. Look, we have to talk about the Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards breaking out. They have that crowded front court financially, positionally, like height-wise, like with Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. You can go in, get that point guard in Chris Paul, be an upgrade over what you've had recently with Mike Conley, with D'Angelo Russell, and he could be a leader for Anthony Edwards and that young-ish Timberwolves team, but is really trying to take the next step. And you'd have Chris Paul, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Cat Gobert. I mean, that's good on paper. Is it going to succeed throughout the regular season? I don't know. This team didn't make, or they made the playoffs as the 8 seed, and we saw the talent gap between them and the Nuggets. And I don't think Chris Paul gets them over that hump, but maybe Chris Paul helps Anthony Edwards get them over that hump, being that floor general and that point guard and that leader for them. I feel like the Pelicans got to be mentioned as well. A team that desperately, I think, needs another leader in that locker room, joining CJ McCollum. You'd have Chris Paul and McCollum in the backcourt. You'd hope to have Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Nothing going on with him off the court. There at your forward spot, maybe bring back Jonas Valanciunas, or you try to do a much larger trade. And yeah, like the Pelicans have been linked to Damian Lillard rumors. So maybe you go out and you try this. You get Chris Paul. You'd be like, all right, we just need a floor general. We just need that leader in the locker room to put us over the hump. And you're that guy, CP3. And he can go technically back to the Hornets, back there down to New Orleans. So I guess there could be some homecomings here. And that's a possibility, him returning to the Pelicans. I feel like Dallas would just go for anybody that can help them contribute to winning a championship next year or just being successful. So I'll mention them. There could be a reunion in Houston. Imagine Houston goes out and signs James Harden and Chris Paul this offseason. That would be incredible. And they just reunite that late 2010s Rockets team. And lastly, he's not going here, but I would love this just as a, like, somebody that can help him develop, be that leader for him, that mentor. San Antonio, it would be kind of cool seeing Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama on them next year. Honestly, those two guys with Sohan, Vassell, Keldon Johnson, that could low-key be a play-in tournament team 100%. And you're getting Wemby possibly playoff experience in year one in his rookie season. I think that's a dub. That's all you care about. I would be like, I mean, you're the Spurs. You can give out more money to Chris Paul than any of these other teams. And maybe these teams are giving Chris Paul the veteran minimum or the mid-level exception. And it's like $8 to $10 million a year. And the Spurs are like, we'll give you $20 million CP3 and a team that doesn't have any state income tax. So like, yeah, you're going to be saving a lot of that $20 million compared to if you were making that in a California or a New York. So yeah, the Heat can offer that too in Florida, and maybe the Spurs try to do that, and Chris Paul's maybe wanted to play under Greg Popovich, but it looks like he wants to join a team that can win a championship next year. And as much as we love Wemby, that's just not happening for the Spurs in 2024. So yeah, let me know where you think Chris Paul could end up in the comment section below. I'm going to say the Lakers, if not the Miami Heat, is going to be the team he ends up on. I think Milwaukee or the Clippers would be super fun as well. Boston would be interesting too, because like I mentioned before, they would maybe trade one of their guards. They probably would if they ended up signing Chris Paul. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Drop a like if you guys did enjoy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.